A parasocial relationship is a one-sided psychological bond where one person feels a strong sense of intimacy, friendship, or connection with a figure, like a celebrity, an influencer, or a who is completely unaware of their existence. And K-pop is a business which very meticulously and intentionally does everything in its power to elicit these relationships, all for money. You could apply that logic to literally any form of media. The whole concept of influencers are there so you can build parasocial relationships to them, so you can buy the things they promote, so that you can tune into anything and everything that they do. Celebrities, singers, actors, the labels that manage all these like Western artists, they do everything in their power to kind of get you to build parasocial relationships to them. TV hosts, it's kind of like a chit-chatty kind of sit down and there's people there. That's kind of trying to elicit this kind of bond where, the star may not know the fans, but the fans feel like they know the star personally. But the reason why I'm talking about K-pop today is, from what I know and I've experienced, K-pop is the most extreme version of this and is built to prey on lonely teens or adults or anyone. This may be woke, but just hear me out. K-pop as a business is extremely predatory. Now, before I get into this video, I want to give my usual disclaimer. I feel like my past videos have elicited a lot of different reactions in people. I feel like people see the things I talk about and maybe I might have like struck a nerve in them, so they just get really mad and like comment massive paragraphs about how they like hate me and stuff, which I don't really care, do what you want. But this video is particularly me talking about the negative sides and how these kind of things can be harmful. And I'm an enjoyer of K-pop. The K-pop is like by far, I think, my most listened to genre. However, I am a very self-aware individual and I can very much identify when things can be problematic and when things can cause harm or are already causing harm. So that is what this video is about. And I want to delve into the kind of psychological side of idol worship. I have 2 videos about, idol worship. Thank you guys so much for the support on those videos. Go check that out if you want to kind of know the more kind of worshipy side of K-pop and the things that people run with. If you want to know more about that, then I very much suggest you watch my video on the ismification of K-pop idols and Warningism is gone out of control. Something like that. That was like quite a while ago, so I don't really remember what it was called, but those 2 videos did really well. Thank you guys so much for love and support, and do not forget to like and subscribe if you like this video. And again, I'm not making a generalization when it comes to K-pop fans. I know there's this negative stereotype, but all stereotypes exist for a reason, and we're going to explore that today. Now, I really want to kind of highlight and outline how exactly K-pop builds these parasocial relationships step by step. Now, I have done some research and I've gathered that there are 5 components as to how they manage to elicit such a strangely parasocial fan idol relationship, and I'm going to outline all those for you. Component 1, repeated exposure and familiarity. On Google, this is listed as the human brain is built to recognize and warm up to faces we see frequently. Watching a streamer, podcaster, or actor on a consistent basis tricks our brains into feeling a sense of genuine camaraderie. Now, K-pop does this. I would know this. K-pop does this by incessantly pushing long-form and short-form content in your face, especially around the time when they are promoting new music. There have been a lot of new K-pop drops within the past 2 months. We have been being fed by all these idols. However, in these times where new music is being promoted and albums are being pushed and EPs are being promoted and things like that, there will be maybe 1 TikTok an hour. At least 1 TikTok an hour by these accounts. If you scroll for ages, it will just be promotion on promotion on promotion, on dance. And this is incessant exposure. YouTube videos, dance practices, there is so much media being pushed out in such a short amount of time. And I think they're very smart with it. K-pop groups usually come out with maybe at most 2 EPs a year. A lot of the time it's maybe 1 single two singles and then like an EP later in the year, or it's two singles at the start of the year, then an EP later in the year, or it's a full album for a year, then the next year maybe they'll do a single, maybe the next year they'll do an EP. So there are long periods of times for K-pop fans where they're not getting any music. There's no music, there's no content. So you're kind of being starved of that high of being able to see and have access to your favorite idol, even though they're still there, you know, they still exist. But you know you're waiting for new music and a new era to begin. And when that era begins and you're being bombarded with all this constant content, it's almost like a high. It's almost like a rush of seeing a friend you haven't seen for a long time. And that's very intentional. They kind of starve you of new content. You're kind of forced to, you know, rewatch the old thing or tune into the old music whilst you're waiting for the new thing to drop. And then when it does drop, it's like this like brilliant, mind-blowing moment and you can't stop watching it. You have to consume everything. When a new thing drops, you must watch the music video. You must watch all the TikToks. You must, you know, go on Weverse and watch the lives of the new music dropping. You must go to the countdown for the EP. You must watch all the music videos and the dance practice. You need to consume everything while they're still here. Because you never know, they could be gone for 7 months working on a new EP just for it to all cycle back again. And it tricks your brain into having this sense of familiarity. It's like you know this person because you've seen them so many times. You know, you've seen them promoting their music on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Weverse, on every platform. It kind of makes your brain familiar with this person who doesn't know you. And it makes your brain think that, wow, this is my friend. You know, I know this person. I'm familiar with that person. For a lot of people, being into K-pop all starts with like a single fan cam. I know I got into K-pop, or I was first introduced to it by my sister. Actually, I know she's watching this. By my sister, who introduced me to Twice, I think. And that's how I kind of got familiar with K-pop. And then from there, you know, I was never like that into it. Like I've always liked K-pop. I've never been like a diehard fan. I've always been into it. I've always liked it. It's been something that I really like to tune into. You'll see as we progress into this video why I'm not as into it as a lot of people are, because I think again it can be very unhealthy. So that is the first component, repeated exposure and familiarity. The second component is the illusion of intimacy, and I think this is the most intense component as to why people form parasocial relationships with these idols. It is described as media figures often address the audience directly, use eye contact, or share personal anecdotes. This targeted conversational style creates the perception that you truly know them. This is the one that really gets people. And I will give you examples, and I think this is the most problematic one. I'll give you examples of the many ways that K-pop manufactures the illusion of intimacy to get you to buy into these groups. Number one, fan calls. Fan calls, I don't know, man. I'm not here to judge people who enjoy doing certain things. Like, if I was to get a free fan call, I'm gonna take the fan call. Like, I'm not here to condemn you. But fan calls is just something that has always been kind of weird to me. Whoever buys the most albums gets to sit down and talk to the person that they're idolizing. Okay, right. I don't know. Fan calls is the main one because these companies are promising you, if you buy this, if you consume what we're trying to sell you and give us your money, you can talk to the person who you've been fantasizing about for months on end. And it's kind of selling you that dream. So you buy albums, you stream the music, you're active in the Weverse, you're doing all these things just to get the chance to directly speak to this idol who is probably contracted to speak to you, doesn't give a fuck about you, and will probably forget you the minute that they press end the call. I feel like this is definitely like the closest anyone will get to actually fulfilling their parasocial desires. But the person that they're being parasocial about doesn't even really remember them after the fan call. So fan calls is definitely the main thing that I find a bit problematic. And also fan service.
You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
I heard that you really want to marry me. You can call me Opa.
Now, I'm not going into this video talking about like Saesangs and all like these women who like want to like, you know, grind on these like young men who are just trying to do their job. That's weird. I can make a whole separate video on that because that's just very weird. But fan service, it kind of unfortunately allows the creepy behavior that goes on in comment sections and talking about what they would do to their idols that they like. When the company then tells the idol, you go on stage and do some wild, crazy shit, like go grind on the air, do some sexy, like do something to kind of like make everyone be like, oh my God. And then it then validates the kind of parasocial sexual relationship that some strange people tend to have. It is also the viewer's responsibility to be able to kind of like separate their fantasies with the actual person, you know, don't take it too far. However, when companies like validate it by making their idols like sexualize themselves, they are validating it and making it okay for people to kind of talk about them like that. Even though a lot of the time, these people are like freshly 18 or they're like minors or they're not even 20. I think another part of the illusion of intimacy component that people may not even realize, because I didn't even realize until I was doing research for this very video that this is what it could be doing. Things like dance practices, it's not doing any harm. When you have things like that where you're getting to see this kind of never seen before footage of behind the scenes, it makes people think that they have special access to idols. Even when you're kind of seeing them with no makeup and you're seeing them in these like dressed down kind of casual dance practice clothes and we're in like a studio and there's no set, there's no audience there, and it's being recorded on like a camcorder that's set up like on some like random wall, it makes it seem like you kind of have that never seen before access to these idols. It feels like you're literally watching a friend who's sending you like a snap. It doesn't feel like a manufactured music video. It feels like something that is quite intimate, something that we're not supposed to see. So because you're their friend, they want you to see that. That's the kind of illusion I think things like behind the scenes videos, dance practices and concept videos do. A really good example of this is, if you guys are into Quartus, I really like Quartus. Quartus sometimes does, when they have music videos, they have like a draft music video that they post where it's just kind of them, just the 5 of them with like a camcorder or like some kind of like low budget camera doing like a mock-up version of video that was officially released, and they've usually released this after the actual video is released to kind of show like where it started from. Even things like that, things where it's just the members running around doing like nonsense on like a camcorder and it seems quite low budget. Even something like that, it seems intimate. It seems like something we shouldn't be seeing as an audience, which ultimately does feed into the parasocial bond. If it feels like something that the general public shouldn't be having access to, but we have access to it, so we're special. That's kind of what it feels like, you know? Even things like idols going live. Like a really good example of this is Giselle's recent live. I think this was like maybe a month ago, where she went live and her kind of idol persona mask slipped for like 30 minutes.
Am I healthy? Does it look like I'm healthy? I mean, I am healthy. I try really hard to be healthy, like I do, but it's hard for a K-pop star to be healthy. If I'm being honest with you, it's very hard.
And everyone was glazing her. Everyone was like, yeah, she's so real with us. Like, she's the most honest idol ever. She's probably more honest than most idols you see these days. That's true. That is very true. However, she is going to go right back into that idol persona, put the costumes right back on, and she's probably never going to do that again. Or not as often as you may want her to. That was a very one-off situation, and the reaction to her letting her mask slip for a second was very telling as to how people think that they know these people, they know these idols. All and any celebrities go live, like many people go live, so I don't think it's just idol lives, but obviously this video is about K-pop, so I will be talking about idol lives in particular. They're always kind of in the dark, you know, they look like they've just finished a day of work, and it looks like you're on FaceTime almost. Like it's not a big set, it's not like a frivolous background. It looks like you're literally on FaceTime to this idol. It looks like something we, again, should not be seeing, but because you're allowed to see that, you're special. That's your friend. Of course you're allowed to see it. You're friends with this person. That is, I think, the kind of image that they are trying to give. I think, yeah, again, illusion of intimacy is the most deadly. Well, not deadly. I'm being dramatic here, but like, you know, it's the most, it's the one that affects people the most and kind of pushes that unhealthy parasocial bond the most out of all the components I'll mention. The next one is safe social connection, which is described as because they are one-sided, these relationships are highly rewarding. There are no arguments, no demands for reciprocity. Anyways, and no risk of being judged or rejected. I think this is also almost just as severe as the illusion of intimacy. Idols and companies like to push this idea of it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are, what sexuality you are, you can tune into this group and you can be a part of this community. Because you don't know the idol personally, the idol doesn't personally know you, even though you know that in the back of your mind, it's like a real relationship to you, but in the back of your mind you still know that it's like they don't know you still know that. So you have the safety net of not being judged for how you look. Even if you have a crush on an idol, it's a fun crush, it's not like a real life crush where you have to kind of worry about, oh, am I too ugly? Am I in his league? Does he like me? Does she like me? You have to worry about how you're going to be perceived by the person that you like, which then kind of taints the fantasy, because it's not a fantasy, it's real life, and that person is going to perceive you, and that's going to affect how they act towards you. They only exist through a screen to you. So you have the upper hand of not actually having to be perceived by your idol. You can look a hot mess behind the screen, but you can still feel like you're on FaceTime to them through a live, but they don't have to see you, they don't have to even know you exist. You can look a hot mess, you can be funky as hell, you can be anything, but you still have the upper hand of not having to be perceived. Which is, I think, something that a lot of people may fantasize about, especially if you're a very insecure person. Do you see how, like, these companies use these groups to prey on insecure people? If you're a highly insecure person who gets, like, no play, of course you're gonna, like, develop a parasocial bond to an idol. Like, of course you are. Of course you are. I wouldn't be surprised. And because it's parasocial and, you know, the relationship is through a screen, you have the upper hand of not being judged. You don't have to worry about getting into an argument or saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing because they don't know you. This one is probably the saddest one. You can be very insecure about how you look, but your idol would never judge you. They probably would judge you. But yeah, it's just a thing of like, you have a safety net of the screen. The fourth component is the curated persona. Now, I have a perfect personal anecdote for this one. If you guys didn't already know, I am a really big fan of Curated. I love the group, I love all of them, I love the music, I love everything about the group. So again, this is not a me kind of trying to judge K-pop fans, because that's me. Like I'll be judging myself because that's literally me. When they first came out, I remember this so vividly, like it was yesterday, even though this was nearly a year ago now. Their pre-debut era was so vivid to me because I remember first seeing them and they just seemed different to any other boy group I'd ever seen. I'd never really been into boy groups because I didn't feel like I could relate to them, but whereas girl groups feel like, you know, I'm a girl, I like girl groups, you know. This is my first experience falling in love with a boy group, and wow, it felt so real to me. They were different because even like the Go music video, it was different from other K-pop music videos because it kind of just felt like you were just with them, hanging out in LA when the sun's out, you know, you guys are just having fun, running around, doing whatever. It wasn't like a high budget choreographed music video with like CGI, you know, like Blackpink's Go, I think was what the song was called. What was their most recent song? I'm not there with Blackpink anymore. Like, they've lost me completely, so I wouldn't even know, but it felt so manufactured, whereas the reason why I was so drawn to Cortez's Go and their pre-debut era was because it felt so raw and vulnerable. It felt like it was just a bunch of boys who just went to the studio, made a whole bunch of like songs, and then they got to release it, but they happened to just be signed to a really big $1 million company, which isn't that. All of these things that I just listed, the low budget, the kind of walking around of LA and feeling like they're very free, it is all a curated persona made for you to tune into the group. Hybe is a $1 billion company. Hybe is the biggest company. Like, it's a very big company. They probably have like rooms full of people sitting in suits discussing, what could our next business venture, because the groups to them are the business ventures. So they need to think about how they can get people to tune into this newest business venture and what can they do differently to make people think that, oh, this group is different. And I fell for that. And the reason I fell for that is because it felt like so laid back, and that was their curated persona. The laid backness and the friendliness and the lack of PR training that you think Cortez has is a curated persona made to make you think that you know them or that they're different from other idols, which is why I think they grew so quickly, because they just have like a kind of aura and a steeze and a chillness and a kind of lack of media training or familiarity of a teenage boy that other idols don't have, because number one, they're so young. Some of it is probably real and not a persona, but they are probably told or encouraged to act a certain way for this curated persona so that people kind of can relate to them. That is my experience with the curated persona. I think there are many other examples of the curated persona. If you are interested in this particular component, again, I strongly suggest you watch my video on Wanningism and the ismification of K-pop idols, because that ties into this component very well. All of these idols have a curated persona, especially when I was talking about Wonyoung. Wonyoung is probably the strongest example of a curated persona. She is just so polished. She's so polished and she seems so perfect to the point where she could drop a bouquet of flowers. Everyone's hating on her because, like, is she supposed to be perfect Wonyoung? If anyone else did this, I don't really think they would get hate, but because Wonyoung has built her curated persona around perfectionism, being the perfect looking idol, that if your personality does not match that perfect look, you don't act perfect, people, their brain doesn't like compute that. Their brain doesn't handle that well. Sorry guys, the sun decided to just set while I was filming. I don't know if the lighting looks quite different. Sorry guys. Anyways, the fifth and final component of the parasocial relationship is a sense of community. Now this one is also very important and it's so prominent too. Things like Weverse encourages you all to get together. Anyone who's formed a bond to this group, let's all come together and let's all talk about it. Let's all give our opinions. This one's probably like the least most harmful, because at least you can have other people you relate to and kind of can talk about. So I don't think this one's as harmful. But things like Weverse obviously encourage this, and Weverse also kind of encourages the parasocial bond, because when you're talking in these like chat rooms, you have like a maybe 1% chance that your idol will reply to you, and that's gonna make your whole year. So people, you know, kind of cling on to the chance that maybe my idol will reply to me one day. So they talk on these chat rooms, on these like Weverse groups, fan groups, for years, just for the chance to get a response from their idol, and they never do. Maybe they do. Maybe that will be the best day of your life. But things like Weverse definitely encourage this. I know a lot of celebrities who aren't into K-pop have Weverse. I know Ariana Grande has a Weverse that I'm actually part of. Tyler has a Weverse. But I think obviously it's mainly for K-pop idols. Yeah, if you guys are a returning viewer of my channel, you guys know that I have a bone to pick with Weverse. Why the hell does Weverse notify me every 20 seconds? Like, I think I'll have an important email or text. It's just Weverse or some idol just responding to a fan. So I had to turn the notifications off so quickly. I couldn't do it. Now, in this video, I have gone over the main 5 components that build up this parasocial relationship, and they all work together and they intertwine to get you to form a parasocial bond. Someone put like a parasocial word count in the comments, because I don't know how many times I said that word today, but it's crazy. And the end goal of all of this is to basically just get you to spend your money. That is what these companies want. I'm mainly talking about Hybe here because I've used a lot of examples from Hybe, but this isn't just Hybe. This is so many companies. All companies, they want to get you to spend your money, spend your shitcoin, spend your dime on these idols, buy the album. And if you buy enough albums, if you spend enough money, you might just get the chance to meet your idol in real life. And selling things like that and selling people the chance to interact with their idol or the chance to meet their idol face to face is what keeps people in the loop of constantly buying albums, streaming music, buying into anything they can just to get that chance, just to meet the person that they've been idolizing for years. And that promise and that dream is what keeps people buying and buying and buying, and what makes these companies billions. So the end goal of it all is just to get you to spend your money. What does it take from you? I just have to open my window real quick because it's so hot, but think about, what do these parasocial relationships take from you that isn't money. It can take your time. It can take your energy. It can take your real life relationships. It can take from you. I'm talking about probably like the most extreme version of K-pop fan here, but there are obviously steps you can take to kind of alleviate yourself from developing these bonds. I've developed these bonds before. I think it's very hard to be a casual listener of K-pop because of how much content they shove in your face and how easy it is to fall into the parasocial trap that they are constantly trying to get you to fall into. It's very hard to be a casual listener. I would say I'm somewhere in between casual listener and parasocial. I do tune into all the things that they do, but I don't really buy their stuff that much. I don't know where I am, but I know that my listening of K-pop does not directly affect me or my mental health. Even people on TikTok say, like, you can tell how shit the state of my life is by how much I'm into K-pop. And I think K-pop, at my most parasocial, was probably like this time last year, up until maybe like November. It was at its height. Like, I think it's because I was going through a lot at the time, and that was kind of like an escape for me to kind of escape into something different that wasn't my reality, because I was going through a lot. And I think it's very telling the way that these companies create these concepts that are almost like dream worlds, fantasy lands that isn't real, but you're seeing these real people in these scenarios that aren't even physically possible. So it's like, this is like a dream-like thing for me. This is something I can indulge in and be a part of. No matter who I am, what color I am, what gender I am, what anything I am, I can be a part of this. I can have this. That's the dream that they're selling to you. It only really affects a certain type of person. It affects a certain type of person who's either going through a lot, has no life, has little life, or is unhappy with themselves. Those are the type of people that fall deeply into parasocial relationships. Obviously, that said, there are a lot of people who casually listen to K-pop and don't kind of fall into this very deep parasocial bond. I'm not saying that's not possible. Again, you guys come for me in the comments. I'm not saying that you can't be a casual listener. Fucking hell. But you have to be a certain type of person. You have to be lacking something for you to delve at a certain depth of K-pop, you know? Like, there has to be something going on with you. Even this person says, on God, I get very depressed a lot of the time, but every time I hyper-focus on K-pop, my life becomes 10 times better. Sorry, no, 100 times better. Wow. And I think that just goes to show, like, when you are able to hyper-focus on these idols, tune into their music, watch their live streams, watch the music videos, when you're able to kind of live as if you know this person, or live vicariously through them, or being able to be sold this dream and being able to focus on this thing that is like larger than life and better than the life you're living, it makes your life better. It makes the illusion of that, wow, my life is so much better now that I can connect with this idol, which can be very harmful with addressing what might be wrong with your life. Instead of addressing it, you're kind of using this thing as a coping mechanism. And, you know, obviously it's not as bad as like doing drugs, or like, you know, it's not the worst coping mechanism. Most people grow out of it. I'll probably grow out of K-pop. I'll probably grow out of it at one point. But that's not to say that it isn't harmful just because it's not drugs or alcohol or anything like life-threatening. That's not to say that it isn't harmful and it can't be problematic, because that's what this whole video is on. Just to end off, I think I'm going to show you guys this video that inspired this video that I saw on TikTok. Please watch it through and support the original creator.
I've always wondered why K-pop stans are so, like, easy to spot. And I've always wondered why, like, as a former, like, really intense K-pop stan, like, I am able to just spot a K-pop stan in the wild. And, you know, I've realized that, like, that often happens through, like, dress and, like, hair and, like, style, right? And I've chalked it down to the fact that I think a lot of K-pop fans high-key dress like they're on Inkigayo. But the difference between them is, like, you don't have the SM budget. Like, you don't have the Inkigayo budget, so you look crazy. And it really does speak to how, like, one of the tenets of K-pop is that, like, the experience is supposed to be all-consuming, right? You're supposed to see yourselves in these idols, and you're supposed to want to own them. And it's so weird when you think about, like, how the differences between, like, the Western industry and the K-pop industry, where, like, you know, K-pop obviously takes from the Western industry and turns it into their own thing. And when you think about fan culture, how like they've taken that, but it's become a more extremified version and a more intense, almost perverted, predatory version where these groups and these companies will sell fantasies to K-pop fans because K-pop often markets itself to the most vulnerable and insecure members of our society. And when you give these people this bone to chew, where they now believe that they have a chance with these idols, and it becomes a thing of like this immersive, really deep, intense experience, it gets very crazy. That's like, fan service is so predatory. It's so sick and twisted. And I think a lot of the times the conversation surrounding fan service is one of like, oh, like, I can't believe that the fans expect and like force these idols to do it. But I think we need to start thinking about fan service as a thing of like, these companies are telling these idols to do this fan service to keep these fans hooked in this like cyclical ring of feeling that they actually have a chance to be in a relationship with these idols. And my theory is that it's like literally a thing to where while these idols can't date, the companies sell the fantasy to cause the ownership mentality so that when the dating scandals eventually do happen, there's like more publicity. But that's low-key real conspiracy theory-ish.
Anyways, guys, that said, please let me know what you guys think down below. I haven't made a K-pop video for a few videos now, but thank you so much for all the love and support on my last few videos. I'm very grateful. I'll be coming out with more content this week. Let me know what you guys think of this video. Please give me more recommendations of what you'd like to see. I have so many video ideas coming up, so stay tuned. If you like what you see, please do not forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Again, I have 2 other videos out about these parasocial bonds that K-pop tends to form. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I love you guys.